On today's episode of Gathering the Kings.
If you're any good at this business, you're going to make more than you're making at your job right now.
Right.
If you're not able to break a basic income, 80 to 100,000 a year, you're probably not going to want to stay self-employed or in this business for long anyway.
Right.
So work with somebody else, go get your teeth cut, learn some strategies, and then make some money and buy into education.
You are listening to Gathering the Kings with Chaz Wolfe, featuring fellow 7, 8, and even 9-figure business owners who have real battle scars from business and life, but have prevailed as the king that they are designed to be. We welcome high-performing entrepreneurs to the stage in order to reveal the real of the real on what it takes to build a successful business today. We dissect the good and bad decisions they've made along the way that give a true and accurate picture of the journey of success and how you too can get there. Through this dialogue, you will learn the value of growing your network and surrounding yourself with power players and kings like today's guest. Grab your pen and notebook because we're about to dive in. What's up, everybody? Chaz Wolfe, Gathering the Kings. Will Prosper on the King stage today. My brother, how you doing?
I'm fantastic, man. Good morning, Chaz. Thanks for having me.
100%. You know, it was funny. I got to tell the listener this. We're off air. I kind of do this a little bit with each show, but we're just chatting. We're getting to know each other. We're talking dogs. We're talking business. We're talking family, all this fun stuff. And I'm like, Will, what we got to pause here. I need to hit the record button.
We got actually.
And he's like, oh man, we were getting into some good stuff. This is going to be a great conversation. I'm excited for you to listen. Will, tell us what kind of business that you have.
All right. So I am in the real estate industry and we do marketing to off-market properties. And basically what that means is that we work with people typically who are in some kind of distress, whether it's divorce or bankruptcy or probate, pre-foreclosures. There's some sort of condition issue with the property that's causing it to be dilapidated. They're getting code violations. Maybe their plumbing has stopped working. Whatever the situation is, those are the people that we seek out and we help them solve these problems. And typically what that ends up meaning is that usually we purchase the property from them. We get them a check in their hand and we help them move on to a better position.
Yeah. Love it. I love how, you can do this with any industry. You can do it with any company as far as like how our service helps them get into a better position. But the way that you just said that is incredible because you're right. There is always going to be these opportunities where people they can't figure it out. They're in this problem, any given scenario that you just mentioned. And it's your team putting your neck on the line constantly, looking for solutions for these people. And that's what we do as entrepreneurs. So I'm excited for this. Before we get into your story though, I want to know, why do you still push now? I mean, obviously you've had a certain level of success. That's why we've invited you here. But like, what's the bigger picture for you? What's the bigger play?
What's the long-term plan?
Yeah. Why are you doing this? Like you could probably maybe sail off and, go to another country like we kind of just talked about, but you don't, you continue to push. Why?
Yeah, I think you get addicted to it. Number one, you get addicted to actually helping people. I've done many different businesses in the past. Most of them have all been kind of centered on income and instead of centered on doing something for the community or doing something for other people. Yeah. So that's something that I really enjoy. Also, this industry has a big community. It's a small community, even though there's a high volume of people, like we all end up knowing each other if we're really doing work,
Sure.
And I love the community. I've always been a community-based person, whether it be like Boy Scouts to playing football, to playing other sports, to riding Harleys, Burning Man, couch surfing, Airbnb, all of these different things had communities. And I love the community level of this business. And then again, it's like playing Monopoly, right? We're collecting doors. We're seeing how many houses we can turn into hotels. We're seeing how many blocks we can take over. It becomes kind of a challenge that you never really get tired of conquering. And because industry is so diverse and so layered, there's an endless amount of information out there. You can never, ever learn it all. Even within our niche, never really learn it all. And so it's a never ending education as well. And then at some point, like yourself, you get to the point where you're able to help others. Now that adds even another layer, yet another layer where you're helping other people grow. That's usually benefiting you because they're bringing you deals, but you also get to see other people grow, be successful, feed their families, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Now, what's the ultimate long-term goal for me? Like we talked about earlier, I don't have family. I don't have a kid. So for me, it's actually getting set here and then moving out of the country I'm already working on a resort in the Philippines with my best friend. We've been building it for 2 years. It's an ecological resort. So it's literally out in the woods. It's in the jungle. We
Wow.
captured a bunch of river water, diverted it, turned it into a pool. We've got a big bar that we're setting up there. People can come in and they can literally just enjoy nature for a while. There's no amplified sound, absolutely no garbage. Like I said, we're Burning Man people. So leave no trace is a big thing for us.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I want to live out there and I want to continue to travel the world. I've traveled to 20 countries so far, and I want to actually start to do real estate in other countries. So right now I'm looking at a property in Puerto Rico, which is a hotel that we're going to remodel and turn into something kind of more fun and hip. It's got a restaurant downstairs, got 22 rooms. We're going to put a rooftop bar on there with a pool. So
Wow.
just continuing to learn new things and expand
Yeah.
and try to basically run parallel my business and my life goals, which my life goals are to explore other countries, learn more about cultures and history and people and languages and food, and keep doing real estate.
I love it. Yeah, everything that you just said sounds amazing, and I hope to travel like that even myself. But I think you're spot on, man. You can tell that you're passionate about it, but you can also tell that the real estate fuels those possibilities. I just had a guest on my show. I don't know, maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. That's in Puerto Rico that has a ton of short term rentals, and they do this kind of boutique
Oh,
hotel like revamp thing. So I'm going to definitely connect you with him for that upcoming project that you've got. But
yeah,
I think
please
that's
do.
that.
That'd be awesome because we're looking for investors on this project right now. We're raising 350,000 for the remodel of this hotel.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there'll be some good connections there for sure. So, okay, so let's go back to you getting started in real estate, or maybe it was your entrepreneur journey started before that. Can you tell us kind of like maybe why you became an entrepreneur? Like how did
Oh
you come here?
gosh. I think my first job ever was digging a hole in the rain. I have that exact same cup. I love that cup, bro.
Yeah, there you
Costco
go.
cup.
Right, nice.
Costco. For like this one-armed, overweight guy running a backhoe, and I just hated it. And I worked with that guy for months, and it was just grueling, backbreaking work. And then ultimately, I went to college for computer science. I finished that, and then I went into construction. I went into flooring, and I liked what I was doing. I liked the construction side of things. I liked finishing the project,
Sure.
but I didn't like how my boss was always lying, and he would always say all this weird stuff to us, and he would manipulate us all the time. And I just wanted more control.
Yeah.
So within a year of doing that, I started working for myself. And really what that did was it gave me my time back and it allowed me to make a little bit more money, right? You know how business is. It costs you more money to do business. So you feel like you're making more on the checks, but you're usually not. But this gave me my time back, which I didn't
Yeah.
have much time then. And it just kind of became an obsession. So I didn't plan on, it's like I didn't choose entrepreneur life. It chose me.
I love
And
that.
I just wanted more freedom. I like to travel probably 3 months a year. So
Yeah.
usually every quarter I take a month off. I go to a different country. I'll continue to work from that country, but I just like being out into a different culture and different experiences.
Yeah.
So I need, I got to be self-employed to have that freedom. I really
Yeah.
have to. Yeah.
Yeah. You before you used the word freedom, I was in my brain going, you're freedom driven. I mean, I think a lot of entrepreneurs are, right? Like I don't want to work for somebody else. I don't want to be held down or whatever the phraseology that we use inside of this word freedom. But for you, it's literal like, don't put me in a box, don't put me in a cube. I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to, not necessarily, make all the money in the world, but I want freedom. I want freedom of choice, freedom of travel, which I think we can all relate
That's
to a
part
degree.
of
It's
it,
just, yeah,
right? That's part of it. Part of it is the freedom. I am freedom driven. I could go work for someone. But what's happened is I've gone to these bigger people and they're like, oh man, you're too entrepreneur. I
right.
lived in the Bay Area for 5 years. By the time I lived there, I had run multiple businesses. All I had done was run businesses, a construction business, a catering business, a housekeeping business. I had a software sales business. And so when I moved to the Bay Area and I was interviewing, all of them said the same thing. You're too entrepreneurial. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like, yeah, it's true. I don't want to start another business. I'm happy to give my skills to you in your already established business. But
Right.
what they were worried about is you're only going to be here for a little while and then you're going to be gone.
Right. And then, yeah, you
And
won't be
you know what?
satisfied.
We've all had that happen in all of our businesses. And it's a
Well,
tough decision to make.
yep.
But I think they made a mistake, because if I found a good home
Yeah.
that still, I wouldn't necessarily need that much travel time, but I also work if I travel.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah,
Um,
no, you're right. It's this intrapreneur concept that's maybe a little bit
yes.
more popular now. Because you're right. If I had looked at me on paper, no chance. you know. But you're right. This intrapreneur, profile, it does exist, and I think as entrepreneurs, we need those people who are saying, hey, like I could go do it on my own, but I'd rather do it inside of the structure that you've already built, because
Yeah.
that makes for a dynamic duo
If
oftentimes.
their business has lasted over 5 years, they're probably doing it right.
Right.
So you're just going to skip all those growing pains. But it is what it is. Here we are now. Our business is doing good. We're doing just fine. And I still partner with people on a regular basis. So it kind of feels like I'm joining other businesses. We're doing joint ventures.
Sure.
We're doing syndications, things like that. So it still happens. It just happens in a different format.
Love it. Okay, let's go to a good choice that you made along the way. Ideally, maybe earlier on as you're building structure and kind of like the nitty gritty part of the business. Tell me a good decision that you made that you can look back on now and be like, "Yep, glad I did that. I'll do it again."
Paying for education and investing in my own understanding of the business.
Love it.
Definitely
Okay,
the
give us a
best
story.
choice. Yeah, I paid for a mentorship, specifically taught about subject to, but it taught about all kinds of things on top of that.
Sure.
And not only did that introduce me to a lot of education and different techniques that I didn't understand yet, but it also introduced me to a great community of people who I was able to build relationships with. And now when I hang out with my friends, those friends are almost all in the industry. They're either in sales or they're in real estate or they're in both.
Right.
So what do we do? Yesterday, I was hanging out with my buddy, Greg Tuck. He runs a very successful VA business, fantastic VA business. I think it's called Hourglass. And then he also does really good with off-market properties, right? And this is a friend of mine. We hang out, and what do? We talk about business. We talk about, what's working in your business, what's not working in your business. So going back to investing in myself, I inadvertently also bought into a community of doers, of
That's right.
people who are out there taking massive action. And one thing that I would say to people who are watching this is I would say that when you invest in this, you're still going to be let down. You're still going to have bad experiences. Like people
Love
will
it.
take advantage of you. They'll steal your deal, whatever. They'll go behind your back, but that's malicious. Most likely what will happen is people will be busy with their own lives. They have their own stuff going on. They don't follow up with you and you feel a certain kind of way about it. But in reality, it's not malicious at all. It's just a fact that they're just as busy as you are running their business and trying to make it happen. And that if you're not the squeaky wheel, you're not going to get the grease.
Yeah. No, it's so
Yep.
true. I think that I think the listener probably has two feelings. One, and probably separate. Maybe they have both actually. Is that they either have yet to invest in themselves in this way, and so maybe they know they need to, or maybe this is the first time that they've heard this, but they have this notion of, okay, investing in myself, what does that look like? Makes me a little nervous to spend 2 or 5 or 10 or $40,000 on myself, because really, what is that going to get me, right? Then
Yep.
you have the other person, like you just said, that maybe has done those things, but maybe didn't quite get what they wanted from it, or maybe they didn't put effort into the what all these what ifs, right?
Mhm.
So what would you say to either one of those people right now who's maybe listening to you say, okay, that was your good decision, but like, help me get there. Like, how do I get there right now? I'm a little nervous, or I've been burned.
Easy.
What would you say?
Number one is go out and find somebody to partner with who's already doing it. So I regularly bring on people who I mentor. I mentor 5 people at a time. Those people, I teach them how to do lead gen, underwrite properties, evaluate properties, so on and so forth. And then in exchange, they bring me deals. We split the profit 50-50. Once they're kind of set up and they're on their way and they're ready to go do things on their own, if they choose that path, I welcome them to do so. And then they can always come back and get help if they want it again. Some of them have chosen just to consistently work with us, and that's all they want to do because they're just adding, money to their income every year by working
Yeah.
with us. And other people have gone on their own. So my word to those people is partner with someone who's already done it, learn some of the basics, right? You're going to make less money, but oh, well, you're probably still good. If you're any good at this business, you're going to make more than you're making at your job right now.
Right.
If you're not able to break a basic income, 80 to 100,000 a year, probably not going to want to stay self-employed or in this business for long anyway.
Right.
So work with somebody else, go get your teeth cut, learn some strategies, and then make some money and buy into education, right? Now, I kind of at this point completely stay away from anything that's like $50,000. I've just found that the people who run that level usually, if they're any good, they won't work with a newbie, right? Because newbies aren't ready for them.
Right.
And
100%.
$50,000, that's somebody who's a veteran in the game, been doing it for a couple of years, is successful. They should
Yeah.
be hiring $50,000 coaches, because now you're focused more on daily activities and how you run your business, not getting started. With getting
Yeah.
started, you can spend between $5,000 to $10,000. I know the program that I got into was 8,000. Now I think it's 12, and it was 100% worth it. So you get that money from working with someone else, you put it into yourself, you learn more skills, you keep working. At some point, if you really feel the need to go out on your own, go do it. But really, in the long run, man,
Yeah.
make yourself so valuable that nobody wants to get rid of you, and you'll never have to worry about making money.
I love that phrase. We're gonna have to quote you on that one. I've used that many times, even in my own teams. Like, "Hey, Chaz, what can I do to grow?" Look for ways inside of this business to make yourself so valuable that I can't get rid of you,
Absolutely.
that I would never want to get rid of you.
And that's
Right?
not always an income. That's not always a dollar amount or a number of
Correct.
sales. It could be strategy. It could be you constantly learning different ways to bring more attention to the business. There's so many ways that you can make yourself valuable. And I think that too many of us focus on income alone.
Right. Yep. Exactly. Okay. So I love the vein that we're in, but I want to switch. I want to flip the coin over to a bad choice. Give us a scenario. What happened where you just kind of, face palm and maybe you almost lost it all? I don't know. Like, tell us what happened.
Oh, it's happened multiple times. So if you have not been self-employed and you're planning on it, expect that you're going to lose everything a couple of times. This is just
Yeah.
normal. I think that there's probably a number to it. There's probably at least 3 times that everybody loses everything before they get their shit figured out. Right.
Yeah.
So bad choice, picking the wrong person to partner with. I've done this multiple times. It's hurt me pretty badly. Last year, 2021. Yeah. I spent 8 months working with the wrong person. I lost $40,000, didn't make any money. The guy was making a lot of money, but he was generally full of shit. And people will tell you what they're up to, but you just don't listen to it. In the very beginning, he told me at one point that he's a master manipulator. And then at the very end, we're in an investor meeting and he told the investors, he said, when people work with me, nobody makes any money. Now he was bragging because he was saying that when he hires people, he hires them so cheaply that they don't make money. But I thought to myself at that moment, I was like, I've been working with this guy for 6 or 7 months.
Haven't
And I'm
made
not making money. I said,
Interesting.
whose fault is that? That's my fault. I was believing and I was
You weren't listening.
ignoring certain red flags. And when I left, I was like, thank God I got out of that situation. And
Yeah.
that guy, he's a total narcissist. And to this day, he still has people contact me once in a while just to see what I'm up to. And I'm like, why do you care?
Yeah.
So bad choice was partnering with the wrong person. Second bad choice was ignoring red flags. Third bad choice was letting it last too long. It stole 8 months of my time that I could have been getting more educated in real estate and doing other things.
Yeah.
That was a big mistake. A lot of people really enjoy the idea of going and moving to a new place. But I would say that if you have a strong network where you're from, if you already are a salesperson, you've been a networking person, you have a big network built where you're at, that is difficult to replicate.
Right.
Even with strong outgoing sales skills, it is still difficult to replicate the time that you've put into these relationships that
Right.
have built trust. And those people can absolutely say that they adore you. They love working with you. They trust you. You're legit. You've never done them wrong. And they've known you for 10 or 15 years versus
Right.
someone who's known you for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to build a business, I suggest that you don't do what I did, which I moved from Seattle to San Francisco. Then I moved to Dallas. Then I moved to Houston. So I was starting over again, over and over and over again.
Right.
And thankfully I had a lot of money saved. I could deal with that. But if I had the choice to do it again, I would have stayed in Seattle and utilized my network because I had an amazing network there.
Yeah. I mean, oh, well, you just gave us the like checklist of what not to do or what to do actually. And I agree like all the way down the list. I think you broke it down in a super manageable, understandable way. Just to point out for the listener here, everything actually he said, the partnering, what the partnering led to, the other following steps, obviously the network. It all comes down to relationships. And then obviously inside of those relationships, executing, right? Whether
managing expectations.
right.
And one thing that, you learn once you become advanced with partnerships is that you should have operating agreements. And
Yes.
so for the listeners, if you don't know what that is, operating agreement is a contract where in the beginning of your relationship, you go over expectations as to what each person that is part of the partnership, whether it's 1, 2, or 3 or more, what each person is supposed to be doing, some very basic, well-rounded metrics in terms of what they're supposed to accomplish, and then basic expectations and timelines, and then consequences if they don't accomplish them. And so with an operating agreement, if you do that ahead of time, you avoid the whole partnership issue, because if you suddenly have a partner that doesn't do anything, then you can get rid of them. For example, my buddy had invested in a restaurant, and he had invested with a good friend of his who was an outgoing sales guy. He was the money. That guy was supposed to be the management, general manager, and run it, stuff like that. Within a few months, he quit. He just bailed on the guy.
Wow.
And so now he's stuck with this restaurant. He's been losing money every month because he doesn't have somebody to buy it or replace the person. And he's doing the best that he can, but he's just losing money every month consistently.
Yeah.
Had they had an operating agreement, maybe it would have helped, because then he would have, the guy wants him to buy him out and all this other stuff like that. Well, it's like, hey, you don't have an operating agreement. If you had something written out that said you have to perform these duties or you get 0,
right,
you'd be good to go.
Right.
In fact, one of my mentors just kicked somebody, a big part of his business, kicked him out because he said he was using the wrong contracts, it wasn't doing certain things, wasn't upholding his operating agreement consistently over time. He said he warned him for over 12 months, and he said, hey, I'm pulling the plug. This operating agreement gives me the power to do so.
Hey, Chaz Wolfe here. As many of you know, I have been on an absolute mission to help entrepreneurs from all across the country in many different industries level up their game and grow their business, and intentionally connect with other entrepreneurs. We do that obviously through the podcast, but we also have a peer-to-peer mastermind group specifically for 7 to 9-figure business owners. We are bringing some of the best and most successful entrepreneurs and minds together in a regular and a super intentional way to not only grow our network, but to be able to leverage. And at a certain point in business, success becomes about leverage, leveraging time, leveraging resources, leveraging key relationships. This is exactly what we're doing inside of the peer-to-peer mastermind group called Gathering the Kings, specifically for 7 to 9-figure business owners. So if that's you, if you're ready to level up your 7 to 9-figure business even to the next level and get around other big hitters just like you, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com, fill out a short application, and it'll come to an application call with me, and I want to chat with you to see if it might be a good fit. Talk soon. Yeah, it's the expectations, like you said, just like you have with an employee or a team member. Job description, the operating agreement can operate in the same way, I guess, but all so good and practical. I love all of those things. I wouldn't think about doing a partnership today without an operating agreement. So simple, but yet so profound, because you're right. It's not today when we're in the honeymoon stage of like, we're excited and we're going to do this deal. And it's not then that you need it. It's 2 and 5 and 10 and 20 years from now, potentially, where when things don't go well, or when the money's not getting made, or a deal goes south, or whatever.
Makes me wonder why people don't have this in marriage. Should be operating agreements.
Yeah.
It just gets a little sticky as to what expectations are, what to perform and stuff like that. I mean, operating agreement used to be written in the Bible, basically, right? And now that we've gotten away from that, there's no expectations as to what marriage is.
Yeah, I'm like over here like processing what you just said, and I've talked about it. I talk about how my wife knows and feels confident in her lanes, and I know my lanes, and she does. I rarely get in her lane. She rarely gets in mine, and it just allows us to like really run fast in each lane and not have to worry about tripping on each other.
Go further together, man.
Because it's the same thing in partnership. If you know what you're doing and I know what I'm doing, I'm not trying to like get over in your tasks, That is an incredible way to look at it. I've never seen it that way.
And the reason why I know about this, again, this all comes from experience, right? Is I had 2 friends who were polyamorous. They had this open relationship. And so they didn't get married, but they created a marriage contract. And this marriage contract was an overview of expectations and duties and all this kind of stuff. And then they would review that marriage contract once every 6 months. And so they
Yeah.
shared it with all of us through Google Drive. And I can see that that marriage contract is still getting updated to this day. And I've had access to it for, I don't know, maybe 10 years.
Wow.
So they're successful. They're still together. Whatever they're doing is working. And their marriage contract is basically an operating agreement.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such an interesting concept. Thank you for bringing that to our minds to be able to ponder. I want to know around decision making, do you have some sort of a discipline or maybe like a process that you put decisions through?
That's a good question. It's hard to explain because it depends on the decisions. Like, are we talking about purchasing a house? Because in that case, we run numbers. The numbers have to be correct. If it comes down to hiring and firing, then that's mostly on my shoulders. And then in that case, I'm going to talk to anyone on the team that's coming in contact with that member and just kind of gather information, have a conversation with them, set some parameters, and then follow up for the next 3 months and see if changes are made. And if they're not, then we let the person go. In terms of other decision making, I wouldn't say that I really have necessarily a discipline that I can speak to. I don't have something that's been written out or written down,
Sure.
which I know that in all sales processes is important to have, but it's like endless diagrams, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's just mostly experience and then looking at numbers. Numbers
Yeah.
are a big part of this business.
Yeah. I mean, even the two examples that you gave to us there, it was, well, if this happens, then this. If this happens, then this. So I think that, even though maybe that it's not written down, you've got this pretty go-to formula, which you shared out of second nature. So that's good. I want to kind of come at you a little different angle here. I got some speed round questions, kind of different types of questions. The first one is this. I want you to take your entire business and I want you to dwindle it all the way down into one trackable metric. What is it?
Number of conversations,
Okay.
conversations,
Pipeline.
quality conversations with sellers. That's it. Or should I say quality conversations with motivated sellers?
Right.
That would be the number one metric because that's what leads to contracts. And so we find that between 7 to 15 quality conversations will lead to a contract. And of course, as you know, the KPIs go crazy after that.
Yep.
But that would be the number one most important metric for me personally.
Yeah. If you know that number, you can project, you can track, you can figure out what the rest almost instantly.
Now we found that in the last year that's gone up. We're having way more conversations to get to a contract. It's averaging like 20, 25 conversations to get to a contract. And I think this is because we were in this crazy seller's market where anything would sell. And so we ended up having to do a lot more work to get the same sales. And ideally in the next 12 to 18 months, we're going to see a big change. It's going to go back to a buyer's market.
Right. Well, and you mentioned that the solution or problem that you're solving in a distress situation and distress and recession or kind of a deflationary, period is obviously those go hand in hand. So yeah.
Well, the struggle was that we had cheap money. So the
Right.
money was so cheap that everybody knew that this was an optimal. All the people who already knew that this time, it was like, get as much money as you possibly can, buy as much as you possibly can, because the rates are never going to be this cheap for who knows how long, if
Right.
ever again. Right. So I think that's what it was, is that anything was selling because people knew that, hey, I've got this money cheap for a very long period of time. 30-year fix under 4% is like 50% of the market right now. So it's a totally different market than what we've dealt with before, but I think it's interesting. It's always fascinating to try to keep up with the changes and then, pivot your business as quickly as possible.
Yeah, 100%, because it's not like the business changes, whether it's in an upturn or a downturn, recession wise. You just, like you said, just have to pivot. Your solution becomes slightly angled differently, or maybe the person that you're solving that problem for changes.
Yep.
Whatever pivot we need to move.
But what doesn't change much is the numbers. You still
Right.
got to buy at a certain amount to make money. You still got to buy at a certain ratio to be profitable. That hasn't changed, even though we've seen the iBuyers and everything come in and, they did basically put a monkey wrench in a lot of what we were doing because they were overpricing everything.
Right.
But hey, hopefully that's kind of come to an end for now. Like Open Door looks like it's going to be closed door pretty soon. Zillow lost $500 million. I don't think necessarily that they're going to go under, but I think that they're going to change what they're doing.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. What book would you recommend that a six-figure business owner read?
That's the interesting one because we've already heard all of the basic ones, right? So one of my favorites is actually called The Nomad Capitalist.
Oh, okay.
It is this one right here.
Nice. Okay.
Capitalist.
Love it.
So this guy, he's got a YouTube channel. His name is Andrew Henderson. The reason why that's my number one most gifted book is because it's not about real estate so much. It's not focused on real estate. It does talk about it. It's more about diversifying your funds and getting second and third residencies, second and third passports, getting offshore bank accounts, getting set up in different countries, and diversifying your portfolio truly. People think they have a diversified portfolio, but it's all in American stocks, American housing, American everything. So when we deal with these issues that we're dealing with now, they get hit. But if you diversify, 2020 taught us this. We went from one of the most powerful passports to one of the weakest passports in the world for a year and a half.
Yeah.
And so had you had a second and third passport, even a passport to Mexico was more powerful than a passport to the US for that time, right? Because we were considered a red country. Other countries wouldn't let you come in because of the COVID crap. So this book teaches those strategies, and those strategies can give you a lot more power and freedom in an ever shrinking society where we can see that governments are changing things and becoming more and more kind of totalitarian, really. And so you can't stop somebody who has 2 or 3 passports from traveling. And when that means potentially escaping economic downturns, hyperinflation, tyrannical rule, police states, any of the stuff that can and has happened and is happening. We saw Sri Lanka, we saw Venezuela, we see all these things happening. This book teaches how to avoid that and how to basically set up backup plans.
Yeah. Love it. Okay. You've already mentioned investing into yourself and the community that you got behind it. I want to talk a little bit more to that. The question is, do you network or mastermind with other entrepreneurs, and why?
Definitely. So networking is a requirement. I enjoy doing it. It's something that I love doing. And it just kind of comes naturally for people like us who are sales guys anyway.
Yeah.
But it's super powerful, right? There's stuff that you can't learn even from mentors unless you have a very close one-on-one mentorship, which is usually either too expensive, they don't have enough time, something along those lines, or they're just not interested in selling that product.
Right.
So when you network with people, you become friends with them, you can help them, they can help you get some incredible inside information into the daily activities of people. So whether it's masterminds are really good too. I enjoy that as well. I think they're great investments. Just depends on how you mastermind. So for me, masterminding is not about getting more education. It's buying access to people who are making more than me or are ahead of me in the industry that I'm in. That's what mastermind is for me.
That's good. It's good. I'd be a coaching opportunity. I think coaching is great. I think networking, but they're all different: coaching, networking, masterminding. Yeah. So that's the reason for the question. Okay. So I got one last question here for you, Will. If you lost it all, you kind of already have like hinted a little bit about what might happen here with your little nomad jargon there, but what would you do? If you lost it all, what would you do?
Sales, man. I did lose it all. I wasn't like destitute or homeless, but I'd say that I lost all my working capital when I a different partnership where I worked with somebody and we invested a bunch of time and money into building stuff out and doing research and development on some stuff. And when it came down to it, he was supposed to pay for half, and I got about 3 months behind on that. And then when I asked him for the money, he just was like, "Oh, I don't want to do this. And you talked me into it." And basically, he didn't have the money. He was going through a divorce. I felt for him. I'd given him extra money on his birthday, stuff like that. But in the long run, I ended up with nothing. I put all this money, and I was like, I can't go another month.
Yeah.
Like my burn rate is out. I'm burned out. So what I did was I took the little bit of money that I had left and I went straight into sales, and I went out and did some roofing sales, knocked doors, banged it out, got a bunch of sales, got money back into my pocket, and I started again.
Yeah.
So if you lose it all, you got to figure out how to get started again, even if that means taking a job, going and doing sales. It just depends on what your skill level is. If you are able to do something, especially in this industry, in the real estate industry, I always tell people, don't quit your day job. Don't quit your day job for a long time because there's a big learning curve. You have to figure out what you really want to focus on. And then that's most likely going to change. I've had a lot of people come in from the mentorship into my business. They work with me for a few months and they figure out this is not what they want to do. They see like, oh, you got to call 50 to 100 people every day, 7 days a week. Like, yeah, this is how we get these deals,
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you have to manage the business and manage expectations and talk to customers and all this, manage your calendar. It's a very difficult thing to do. So I tell people, man, stick with your day job. That way you don't lose everything.
Yeah.
Some people say burn all ships, burn all boats. I get that. I do get that. There's a point for that, but you need to make the journey across the sea. You need to be at land before you burn the boats. Otherwise, you're just going to drown in your own lack of education.
Yeah, it's a super good perspective using the analogy there of the journey across the sea. You're 100% right. Yeah, I think even maybe not a lot of listeners know this about me, but I had 4 businesses, 4 franchises, doing a couple $1 million a year, and I actually went back to work. The year that I opened up number 5, 6, and 7 in 3 different states is when I went back to work as a sales guy because I wanted to start investing in real estate. And I didn't want to take any money from the businesses. And so I went back to work, making cold calls, a lot more than 50 to 100 a day. That's for sure. I was like 200 to 300 a day while running 4 companies, while, all this unto,
Yep.
I wanted to let the businesses sustain, but I still wanted to invest in real estate. So I think that you're spot on with that. I think that it doesn't have to be like that because, everybody's situation is different. I could have not done that, but that definitely, it fast forwarded things for me for sure.
Well, and also what did it do? It just kind of reinforced your work ethic, reminded you where you came from, gave you revigorated the perspective that you have when you bring on other salespeople. That way you always remember where you came from, right? When I did construction, I did all of it, right? I had done everything, short of license level plumbing and electrical. I've done all of it. Frame walls, done additions, poured foundations, all that work. So when people worked for me, I knew what was expected and I knew what I could do. And I was like, if you can't do as much as me, and I'm a naturally lazy person, you are not really going to be a good fit here. So sometimes we come out and I see 2 guys had done 300 feet of floor. And I was like, I could do that by myself. I come out the next day, I do it. And I would do it right in front of them and say, see, I can do it. Why can't 2 of you do it? And so I still, like what you were talking about, going and doing the cold calls, this allows us to be able to understand what we're dealing with now, because cold calling 5 years ago and cold calling today are completely different. People really should have an idea of what their employees and their team members are listening to on the other side. So I agree with that, man. I'll still jump on some cold calls. I jump on the follow-up calls. Obviously, I spend most of my time working on like complicated creative deals.
Sure.
We've got a 500 unit storage syndication deal that we're trying to get funded right now. You get really busy in that stuff, but to go back to the fundamentals is so valuable to our business.
Yeah. I love the mindset, the philosophy, all of it. You've given a ton of value, actually. How can the listeners get in touch with you? Maybe they want to be part of one of your syndications. They want to be part of your mentorship program. They say, hey, I want to learn this deal. How can they find you?
Easy, man. Just go to Instagram. My Instagram is Will the Closer, and it's the same for Facebook and LinkedIn, all that stuff as well. So reach out to me if you have any questions, if you want any advice or any help, or you have some deals that you want to underwrite, be happy to help you. This is what we do it for, right? We do it for the opportunity to go out and help more people and bring in more opportunity. And what I love about this business is that this becomes a win-win, right? When I help someone else achieve their goals, yes, I'm going to get paid. So it's a win-win. I've accomplished another transaction. I probably learned something because they're all complicated. And now I've helped somebody get their first, second, or third deal, and I made some money. So it's like a huge,
And you have a new relationship.
yeah. And we have a new relationship. Exactly. So
That's right.
I really enjoy it. Yeah. Reach out to me. I'd love to talk to anybody who is struggling to get moving in this business, whether it be mindset or strategy or just daily tasks. It's a complicated business with a lot of moving parts.
Yep. I love it. Will, you've been incredible. We wish you nothing but success and blessing and all that you've got. What the listener didn't get to hear at the very beginning is that Will's got a little side love for dogs and service dogs and training. And so he's got one of his pups in the background. So I love what you're doing, all the cool things that you've got your hand in, the traveling, the dogs, the real estate. You're a cool dude to know. I'm glad I know you now, and I'm curious to see where the conversation takes us. But thank you for being here.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for your time, and thank you for creating this great platform. I love what you're doing, man. I watched a whole bunch of your stuff before we jumped on this, and you're a great interviewer, and you've got a great history with multiple businesses. It shows that you are unafraid to keep moving forward. And that's exactly what you need if you want to work with a bunch of kings.
That's right. Thank you for listening to Gathering the Kings today. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe, that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.